Hello, everyone. I'm Helen Bennett, LLG's Executive Director of Policy and Governance, and I'm joined this week by Dennis Hall, our Bulletin Editor. Hello, Dennis.
Hello, Helen.
So, what's our discussion this week, Dennis?
Well, we turn our attention this week to Parliament. There's really been a massive step change already as a result of the general election, as we know, not just on tone and policy direction, but on the central issue of diversity, with a Parliament that looks like no other. And that is because it is like no other. So let's take a look at the new Parliament, the nature of that diversity, and what it might mean for how we will be governed. So, Sir Keir Starmer has praised the new Parliament as the most diverse in terms of race and gender. This country has never seen, he said in his first speech to the Commons as Prime Minister. He vowed to put an end to a politics that has too often seemed self-serving and replace it with the politics of service. Well, the composition of both the new cabinet, Helen, and the new Parliament have broken numerous records.
Yeah, well, Labour's landslide victory saw the party take 412 seats, with the Conservatives falling to 121, their lowest number in history. And out of the 650 people elected last Thursday, 335 have never been an MP before. That's a massive number. So the large number of new Labour MPs meant that the government's side of the Commons was obviously crammed full, with at least 60 Labour MPs literally left standing. Sir Keir was greeted by a standing ovation from the Labour benches as he arrived in the Commons and briefly spoke to his predecessor, Rishi Sunak, before the pair took their seats. For the first time in parliamentary history, the proportion of women elected is more than 40%, which is really pleasing. And women will again outnumber men among ethnic minority MPs, with 50 women from an ethnic minority background winning seats and 40 men. And another record's been set in cabinet, with a total of 11 women appointed to senior positions. Many appointed to government are from comprehensive school backgrounds rather than well-trodden route of private schools and Oxbridge. So this brings a real diversity, and it really ought to be celebrated.
It really is extraordinary in the history of politics. And Sir Keir told the Commons he was also proud of the part Labour had played in improving the diversity of Parliament, adding that the new intake also had the largest cohort of LGBT plus MPs of any parliament in the world. Now, a record number of 90 ethnic minority MPs have been elected to sit in the UK's most diverse parliament ever, and that's an increase of 24, according to British Future's analysis of the 2024 general election results. The historic advance in representation means the new parliament comes closer than ever before to reflecting the diversity of the electorate, with 13.8% of MPs coming from an ethnic minority background. And analysis of census data by Matt Singh of Number Cruncher Politics estimates that 14% of the UK electorate is now from an ethnic minority background. And by far the largest number of ethnic minority MPs will sit on the Labour government benches. The 2024 Parliament will include 66 Labour MPs from an ethnic minority background, and that's 46% of the new Parliamentary Labour Party. Some 15 ethnic minority Conservatives were elected, alongside 5 Lib Dems and 4 new independent MPs from a minority background, Helen.
Yeah, and Sundar Katwala, who's the director of British Future, he said that the 2024 election is a landmark for representation, with record diversity of parliament closer than ever to that of the electorate. And in the space of 40 years, he said, we've gone from 0 to nearly 1 in 7 MPs being from an ethnic minority background. And he also said that the irony is that it coincides with the end of Rishi Sunak's premiership as the UK's first British Asian Prime Minister, which only underlines how ethnic diversity has become a new norm across the main political parties. But he makes a really interesting point. He said that better representation doesn't guarantee better policies on inclusion. And I think that's a really important thing to sort of bear in mind. And that race debates, he said, can often feel as polarised as ever, but that a stronger share of voice matters, and that when the new Commons raises issues of race and ethnic minority MPs will be there to bring their lived experience to the debate. And I think that's what we're really talking about here, lived experience, Dennis.
Yes, I think that is a very important phrase, because that is surely the central point, isn't it? That the new members from different backgrounds will bring their own personal insights and experience to a whole raft of policy areas where, frankly, there has been very little progress. Inclusivity is simply bound, surely, to improve decision-making on policy areas. What we've seen in this landmark parliament is a complete step change in the kind of backgrounds that the new MPs are coming from. Much less of an elite and much less of a sense of entitlement, perhaps, to govern, as we have seen in the recent past.
Well, we eagerly await now how this transformation influences thinking in our own sector across the main people policy areas. And we talk about the main drivers here: health, adult and social care, education. And I'll also be interested to see if the government, or indeed the minister more likely in education, is going to make any statement about SEND provision as well, because I think that's an area that needs addressing very quickly, and it's incredibly important as well, obviously. So on that note, you can get coverage of many more items from the bulletin and by listening to the Grapevine podcast. Dennis and I are taking a break for the summer. So until then, it's goodbye from me.
And for me too. Have a good summer.